Lee over at Time Riders Wee Little Cars is hosting Mopar Mondays during the month of November. And I thought I'd jump in on it this week, and I'm doing this Hot Wheels 71 Dodge Charger. I love the looks of this car. I remember it when I was a kid. And this casting looks pretty good. I had this one on hand, and it's been played with. You know, there's a little wear to it, but it's in pretty darn good shape. I pre-drilled it, and you see it has a plastic base, plastic chrome interior, clear glass, fortunately. That is always a plus. So I threw it in the citrus strip, and then I decided I was going to do a wheel swap on it because I wanted to get rid of those ugly wheels. Those were Scuderia wheels, I believe is how it's pronounced. Picked those up off eBay. I've had those for a little while. I'm almost out of them, actually. But they seem to look good on this. So it was time to clean up the casting. Went through the usual process of pretty much going over all the edges with the file, just making, getting rid of casting lines, making some of the lines a little more crisp. And then after I do that, I like to hit it with the Scotch-Brite pad and get it nice and clean. And the Scotch-Brite pad works out pretty well for me. You know, I did do the wire wheel before any of this, and the Scotch-Brite pad is usually the last step I do. Before I paint it, though, I do go over it with IPA, actually dunk it in, and then wipe it off to get rid of any residue. Now, I thought I wanted to keep some of the chrome, the original chrome, and then throw the rest of it in. The Super Clean had this liquid mask to protect the chrome. Looking back on it, this was probably a stupid idea because it wasn't a new casting. So there was some wear to the chrome already. And since I'm going to go over it with the Molotow pen anyway, this was kind of a wasted step. But that Vallejo liquid mask, sometimes it's just too thin. And I need to find a thicker masking agent to use. But it did preserve the chrome when I threw this in the Super Clean, you know, the chrome that was there. So then I hit the bottom with a flat black, and gotta love the Sharpie pins. You know, they work out so well. I used the silver one probably, geez, 10 times as much as the gold or bronze that came. It was a 3-pack when I got it. And while I do use the others, I don't use them all that often. Where the silver paint pen, it seems like I use it on every build for the bases to bring out some of the detail. And you know, I did that again on this one. And it's just tough to beat. It makes it so easy, far easier for me than, you know, trying to do this with a brush. You know, that just having it in pen form like that really works out well. And then good old Citadel Nuln Oil, basically a black wash. You can make it yourself if you want. I find it just really convenient to use the Citadel version of it. And as you can tell, I put quite a bit on there. And for those of you who follow other channels as well, which I hope you do, if you don't, you're missing out on a lot, and I don't know how you found me. But Nuln Oil is used by quite a few people. It works out well. Yes, that was Citadel red. No, I'm not painting the seats red. I'm just painting the inserts of the seats red. It's a slight difference. But God, I love the pop of that red on the interior. And if I had this Charger, I got to tell you, if I had this Charger, not only would I want the inserts on the seats to be red, but I'd probably hire somebody to pinstripe the thing for me, and I would definitely have some kind of red accents on this thing. it would not be the color I ended up with, which I haven't mentioned that yet. I forgot. What I wanted to try on this was I wanted to paint it with a black. Basically, I went with Rust-Oleum black on the body, and then I went over it with the metal cast red, hoping to get like a dark cherry kind of color to this. It's there. Unfortunately, you can't really see it in any of the pictures that are coming up later. I tried to get it where you could see it, but other than in direct sunlight, it was tough. Now here what I ended up doing, instead of using this Scuderia little cap that they give you, I have these little, they're crimps. And instead, I don't try and crimp them on there. They never seem to work when I crimp them. They always crack. So I just glue them on. And I put it on the axle first, and then I slide it. I put the glue on the tip of the axle, and then I slide that little fitting out to the end. And then I'll hit it with a little additional glue here, and with the accelerant that you see at the right, just to finish it off. That works really well for me. It's far easier than trying to get the Scuderia caps that they give you. It's like a balancing act to get them on there. It's hard to explain. And once I had both axles set up the way I wanted, you can cut off the excess of the axle. And I think it was Lee who originally mentioned using a regular Hot Wheels axle, because that way you already have one end on it. And it works out really well. And then I just used the CA glue to hold the axles in place. This wasn't really critical because I didn't modify the interior in any way. And it helps hold those in place. Those of you who are familiar with when these things come apart, that interior helps on the inside. And there you see the black with the metal cast red on it. You can't really see the red, like I said, unless the light hits it just right. You'll see a little bit of a red cast in the reflections. Outside you can see it, and like at the tip of my finger there, you could have seen it there for a second. It's there, it's hiding. I couldn't be happier with the Molotow chrome pins. I ended up getting the 2mm. I mentioned that in an earlier video, and the 2mm is just far easier to use for this type of work than the 1mm. I did use the 1mm for the background on the side markers, both at the front and the back of the car, before I put the color on those. That way they look a little more reflective. And the 1mm pin is ideal for that because it's such a small, little, tiny line that you're drawing. The 2mm pin would not work for that. It did work for the door handles and the locks, as you can see there. But those are raised, where those side panel indicators are actually sunken in. And it just would have been a hot mess if I tried to use this on that. But yeah, the 2mm pin is definitely, if you don't have that and you're considering the pin, get the 2mm first and possibly later get the 1mm. And now I bust out the Tamiya clear colors, the clear orange and the clear red. The clear orange for the front indicators and the clear red for the back. And again, I just use a Q-tip to, or not a Q-tip, excuse me, a toothpick. There's a big difference between the two. Oh, you can kind of see some of the red cast there as I was tilting it outside. Again, it's one of those things that the light just has to hit it right for you to see it. Like I said before, I did use the Molotow chrome before I put these clear colors over it. Hopefully you enjoy these videos. If you do, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And I've learned on doing these things. It took me a while, but one thing I've learned that makes it easier for me is when there's something like this where there's recesses. What I used to do is I'd like do the bumper in chrome, and then I'd try and hit the spot with, say, the red taillights. But when things are recessed like this, what works better for me is to do the fill-in first. Fill in the red. I used the Army Painter white that you see there to do the backup lights. It was probably a little too bright of a white. I probably should have cut it a little bit. But it turned out okay. But since those are recessed, I did those first. And then around that area, looking at different pictures of the vehicle, it's a black area. So the next level up from the taillights is actually, it's still recessed, but it's a black area. So now I'm going over that with the Gundam marker, being careful not to fill in those recesses. And then what I end up doing, I do sharpen it a little bit. That's a wider point Gundam marker than the Gundam panel line markers, the very, very thin tip, almost like a writing pen kind of type tip to it. It's a very, very thin tip. I did sharpen around some of the taillights after doing this with the wider marker. Again, being careful not to go into the recesses. And then once I had the black done, it was up to the next level, basically working my way from the most sunken part to the highest elevation, to the highest area, which was then the chrome, which then again I get out the Molotow chrome. And for that chrome I saved, it wasn't worth the effort. I ended up going over it all with the Molotow. I used the same approach on the recesses on the front bumper as I did on the back. I just didn't bother showing it here. But there you see the orange areas are that Tamiya orange. The white on there again is the Army Painter white that I used for the headlights. And so it seemed, I'm going to try this always in the future. It seems to make the most sense to me too, that you would work from the lowest recess to the highest portion rather than trying to carefully fill in that hole after you've colored all around it. It may work differently for you, but for me, it seems to work. And give it a shot, see if it works for you. The windshield was in a little. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely did not look nice and shiny. So got out the flits. I'm sure some of you are cringing at this part that I'm using my finger to polish it, but hey, I always have it with me. So, yeah, I did use the microfiber cloth to get it nice and shiny. I didn't do all of the polishing with my fingers. So, the good old yellow Costco microfiber cloth. Found a big stack of them that I had in the garage. So, and then it's gauzy, gauzy, gauzy time. I had to use the gauzy to get that super shiny gloss. And you just wick off the excess after you dunk it. I use those crayon those crayon holders like I used there that you're going to see me set this down in. I use those crayon holders for everything. They work out well for me to keep jobs separated. Different cars that I'm working on. If I drill one out or anything, I just use these to keep the parts all together. So that was basically the last process that I had to go on this one. And then it was time to throw it together. There you see the metal body. I did clear coat it with Minwax. The Minwax, let me say that right. The Minwax polyurethane clear. I did go over the interior as well with Nuln Oil. And just drop the interior in there and then pop that base on there. I am pretty happy with how this one worked out. I do wish the black cherry looked a little better, that you could see the red a little bit better. And there is some really slight orange peel on the body, particularly on one side. And I'm not sure what happened with that. It's not terrible. I mean, I'm happy with the car. But the Minwax Clear usually works so remarkably well. I think I didn't actually put a heavy enough coat, to be honest with you, on one side of the car because it was kind of a windy day when I was doing it. And it was kind of, you can kind of see the red reflection there a couple times. Yeah, kind of. It's just kind of flashes of it. It does roll. It's not going to beat anybody down the track, but it does roll. There's where we started. And you can't beat that Dodge Charger. I mean, it is a flashback to my childhood, but here's where we ended up. And, you know, I tried to get it where you could see a flash of red in it here, but it's like the lighting was just fighting me. I was happy with the details on this, so hopefully you like it. Lee, thanks for throwing out the Mopar Monday invitation. Be sure and check out Lee's page, his channel. I'm putting a link to it below in the description. And I do know some other people who are going to be doing Mopar Mondays too. I think one's doing one this Monday too, if I remember right. So I hope you like this. If you do, please give the video a thumbs up. Let me know in your comments down here. Let me know what you think. And thank you for watching. And I also would like to take a moment to thank my supporters on Patreon. I really do appreciate your support. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a good November. Catch you in the next one.